Welcome everyone to the July 2026, or as we like to call it, FY27 kickoff. So I guess like in Australia, it is the start of the new financial year. So it's not just aligning to Microsoft's fiscal year, it's also the Australian financial year. So pretty easy to remember for us to remember. So I think this is the first time in a while that we've had all four. Or
I think so. It's been a while
yeah,
with all four of us.
yeah. Or Steve technically is here. He's just outside. But for anyone who's new, and I can sort of see that Prajwal sort of dropped something into chat saying coming in from Canberra. So I haven't looked at the Canberra temperature, but I'm just going to assume that it's cold in Canberra at the moment. Pretty good assumption this time of year.
Indeed.
My name's Mark O'Shea. I'm a Microsoft MVP, Windows and Windows 365. Next to me, I've got
Arash, and I'm also. I'm the first W365 MVP in Australia.
Yeah.
The skinny. Yeah.
But are you AVD
and
as well? And AVD, yeah. And Jerome.
Yeah, Jeroen. Intune MVP and Identity and Access for, I don't know, few days, 2 weeks. Then it's a renewal time, so I don't know if I still be an MVP, I hope so. From the Netherlands, consultant. That's me.
Yeah. And the person that we were waiting on, the person who's just behind that door, is Steve, but he'll come in and make and talk when he gets the chance.
And I'm sure everyone knows
it. Yeah. So let's just sort of go through the agenda for today. So pretty straightforward agenda for today. First of all, just a bit of a conversation around why the move from Meetup over to LinkedIn, and it's basically Meetup just doesn't have any kind of anti-spam capabilities, as you've probably noticed. And I know a few of you have reached out to me saying, can we do something about it? And we've left Meetup. That's the only thing you can do about it. But we'll talk a little bit more about that. Then in the news section, just a few other things to be aware of. So some of the things that are happening that are kind of time sensitive. Then the bulk of the session will be just really high-level conversations around the Intune Suite features and where they land in terms of E3 or E5. And probably the main thing that I want to get out of the Intune Suite piece is just to find out which are the parts of it that people are most interested in, so that way we can dedicate more time to that and really go into it in a lot, one or two particular features in the future. But for this session, though, I thought, because like we're starting to see the functionality light up in E3 and E5, M365, E3 and E5, EMS E3, E5 licenses. But otherwise, we covered Intune Suite stuff ages ago, but because it wasn't something that people were actually licensed for and using, there wasn't really a lot of interest or even awareness of it. So I think now that's something that we probably need to basically ramp that up again, gives us a few more things to talk about. And then the discussion, for anyone who's new, the discussion piece is where we basically stop the recording at that point, just in case anyone's got anything that they want to cover that they don't really want there to be, recorded evidence of it. And not saying that it's because the conversations are bad, but it just might be something sensitive from a work perspective or something like that. So we know there are always questions that people want to ask, but they'll wait until afterwards. So it's just an opportunity for us to cover some of those things off. So if we just sort of jump on in, and I don't want to spend too much time on the move from Meetup to LinkedIn, but probably just the main thing here is that there'll probably just be a few teething issues because like LinkedIn events just are not very good compared to Meetup in terms of overall functionality. So it's a bit of a trade-off moving over to LinkedIn for this stuff. But I think for most people, it's going to be one less place they have to go. And yeah, and as we just sort of mentioned, Meetup doesn't really have any tools for us to prevent people from putting spam in. So in a lot of other scenarios, what you'll have is where, someone who joins a group can't post for a week or something like that, just to prove that they're a real person. But with Meetup, we basically, like, I don't know if you see it or not, but for me, because I was the group owner on Meetup, I could see the warning signs. Someone only joining Meetup with their first name would join, and I knew within minutes there'd be a new conversation has started, and someone has got a wonderful employment opportunity that they'd love to share with us. So hopefully we can get away from that. Now, I've left things open over in the Meetup group. In the LinkedIn group itself. So hopefully, we don't get spammed, etc. in there. Otherwise, we've moved over there and we're basically back in the same situation. But I'd like to think that LinkedIn does a better job of user verification and all that kind of thing before allowing multiple accounts to be created purely for the purpose of spam. So we want to keep that open. And really now with the group that we've got over in LinkedIn, we just really want that to be the kickoff point for either revisiting things, any follow-up items from any particular meeting. So so rather than things sort of getting lost on a meeting by meeting basis like they do with Meetup, we want to try to keep that things related to pre or post session conversations in that LinkedIn group so that we can always go back to it. And it means that anyone who's sort of joining and is curious about what kind of stuff we cover, they can at least see some of that stuff in there as they go through. And now we have Steve.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I said about people turning up that I wanted to talk to you.
Okay, so but otherwise it's, the functionality of LinkedIn meetings is quite limited, but we'll sort of figure out some workarounds to see what we can do to try to work to basically get around some of that stuff. Okay, now just a couple of things. Sorry.
One last thing. Can we please request you all on the call to at least send this invite of the group to 5 of your friends so that we can communicate more and more people can join in from different parts, not only in Australia, but anyone. It's open to all from any time zone, whoever can make it. So if a small request from all of us, if you can invite 5 of your friends locally, that will be great. Thanks. Indeed.
Yep.
Okay. So in terms of news, just a couple of quick things. The first one, and I think this will probably be a future topic, the migration of the existing user settings being moved over to Cloud PC settings in Win365. So, it's something that's coming. So just a bit of notification for now. And with these, the things that we sort of put in the news section, like I'm just sort of trying to catch things that sometimes slip through the cracks and we jump into a portal one day and things are not where they used to be or they're missing altogether. So this one, we've got a couple of months head start. So we'll start getting, doing some stuff around that moving forward. Now, the next one, we mentioned this a couple of months ago, but worth just sort of revisiting it, is that semi-annual enterprise channel, and I guess by association, semi-annual enterprise channel preview, disappearing this month.
That's a shame.
Yeah. And this has been a very, very long time coming. And I think there was like some of the stats that I've seen around how quickly they were able to get a lot of organizations moved over to monthly enterprise when that became available. That it was a pretty decent percentage of people who were the orgs that they were able to get moved over pretty quickly. And I think a lot of that probably was also not just because monthly enterprise became available, but just a changing of the guard inside a lot of organizations where it's like, we have to stick on semi-annual because of something that impacted me in the year 1995. and I've never recovered from it.
Well, let's be very clear. I'm still trying to use my documents from 1995.
95, and they've got macros in them.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because we paid somebody 20 years ago to build the document for us.
Yeah.
All these macros, and we want to keep getting our return on investment.
Yeah. So with this one, probably just the main call out for this one is the, what is it, bullet point number 5.
Sure.
So the first update, so someone who's on semi-annual enterprise, they're going to get a bigger update for the month versus, much bigger than normal. So instead of it being like the 30 to 50 megabytes that they'd get as a Delta update, they're effectively getting a rollout of, basically getting a completely new build pushed out. Now, in terms of the impact on the user,
Make sure you have DO working.
yeah, have delivery optimization turned on, even if it's just peer optimization, even if you don't have any cache servers, that's just going to make that process a lot easier. From the end user perspective, they really shouldn't notice this, even though it is a big update. Like any of you who run things like the different Office Insider build preview builds, like that do get basically this on a weekly, like a big update on a weekly basis. It's just something that runs behind the scenes. Like you've got to have a machine that's going to be struggling to do other stuff anyway for this to have an impact on you. It's a machine you're going to be complaining about anyway. So in this case, it's something that, one of the big changes here, like as they're talking about in bullet point 5, is that, with semi-annual, the Copilot, Copilot chat and Microsoft 365 Copilot integration were never going to be rolled out to semi-annual. So at least now it's something where it's, even if people don't want paid Copilot, they still get Copilot chat capabilities from July 15th onwards, if they want, or July 15th for us. So this is one of those months where we're actually a week ahead of the curve instead of Patch Tuesday.
It's very nice.
Yeah. Okay. And final one for this section. Actually, no. Yeah. So probably just the main thing that I wanted to sort of call out with this is that there are 2 AMAs. So there's one in a couple of hours' time, I guess, because that's it'd be like probably 9 a.m. Pacific.
Knowing us, it'll be 8.
Yeah.
Come on.
So basically, if you want those links, we can drop those into. Oh, actually, they're probably this is live. Yeah. So those PowerPoint live. So those will be working for you. So this week, basically for virtualized environments, I probably should watch that one because when I look at my Intune reports, it's my VMs that are going XXXXX. So I just need to roll out.
What Hyper-V?
Hyper-V. I just need to manually roll out. So, I need to push the cert out too.
Anyone in the room with this virtualized environment and VMware?
You mean Broadcom?
Sorry, what did you say? VMware?
Anyone with virtualized environments on Broadcom?
No.
I think Jeroen and I are giving you just as much fun.
Yeah, and then what is it? Next week is the OEMs. So I guess the OEM side, if hopefully there'll be some answers if you've got OEMs that haven't done what you've expected, or maybe just not knowing how to go about getting information from the OEMs, etc. So for that, it's something where, take a look at the Intune reports. What is it? It's under your monthly up your
Auto patch.
auto patch cumulative update reports, something along those lines. And it's kind of interesting looking at what machines are and aren't turning green, and it's not as predictable as you think it would be.
And in fact, even in the same model, your mileage may differ. Like, for example, if you had 10 models of HP and 10 different models of Dell, it's all different. Your mileage would be very different.
But so far, have we seen any negative fallout from this yet in terms of it?
Certs expired already on 26th of June.
Yeah.
So we are almost like another 12 days in, nothing.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world. It was a apocalypse. Okay, so the next couple of things just tie into what the main topics are going to be. So let me just jump in to those. So from here, it's just really some of the changes that are rolling into M365, E3, and E5. Now, I don't want to talk about the Intune pieces just yet because that's what we'll talk about next. But probably just sort of the thing to note here is things like Office, Defender for Office 365 Plan 1 being added into E3. So that one for me is kind of interesting because that used to be a differentiator that Business Premium included safe links, safe attachments, etc., as one of its differentiators, but E3 didn't include that. So now we're at a point where I think, actually, no, I was about to say, I think now E3 has now gone back to being a superset of Business Premium, but not quite, because the Defender for Business that's in Business Premium is better than Defender for Endpoint P1. Yeah, all fun and games. And so probably just the other thing as well that I want to call out on this one as well is coming back into the Business Premium part of the conversation is, like, I've already seen it posted in a few places, people saying, I'm not seeing any of the Intune stuff light up in my Business Premium tenant. And it's like, that is a correct observation because it's EMS, E3, and E5 that are getting the Intune Suite capabilities added. And Business Premium includes Intune. It includes like Purview information protection, etc. But technically, it doesn't include EMS. So, and I think the only differentiator in terms of what it doesn't include is something that EMS doesn't include anymore, because it never included ATA, Advanced Threat Analytics, and that's been removed from EMS anyway. It's all too difficult. Anyway, so that ties into just this slide here, and I don't really want to go through too much of this, but probably just the main thing here for any of you who do deal with Business Premium customers is you do still get some additional things in here. Probably just the main thing here is like your email pieces being included. But also, this is kind of interesting in here for Business Basic and Business Standard. It looks like they're getting safe links, but not safe attachments. So they're getting kind of Defender for Office 365, not P1, but P.5. They're kind of getting half of the functionality, or under half. So they're still getting some stuff added in, but as soon as we look at even here, like you can see on the Intune side, you've got to go E3 or E5. And it's got nothing to do with it being E3 or E5. It's because of EMS. That's the logic behind that one. And I think that's one that is going to keep a few people busy for quite a while, either complaining about it or misunderstanding it and then getting corrected. Okay, so that brings us into the main part. And I guess from here, probably what I just really want to get a feel from everyone is around what are the parts of Intune Suite that if you are getting them functionality added into your E3 or E5 tenants, what's the functionality that you're most interested in, just so that we can start planning for future sessions, so we can start digging into some of that stuff in a bit more detail. Now, for some of you, you maybe haven't had too much time to look at it or even think about it yet. So even as we go through some of this, just let us know if there's anything in particular that jumps out that is something that you do want us to sort of spend a bit more time on in a future session going into more detail. So for these, just the thing to sort of note at the top of each of these is I've just sort of thrown in, is it part of E3 and or E5? Just to sort of highlight, on a slide-by-slide basis, which ones we get. Now, probably the big one overall, I think, is, Intune Remote Help.
Remote.
Is, like, to me, that's the easy win here, especially seeing that it's included with E3 now.
Absolutely.
So that's the one that I think is probably worth visiting. Now, for me, like, I've never looked at this on Mac OS or Android, so that's probably something that for a future session, we'll probably dig into that one. On the Windows side, good news, it's part of the Enterprise App Catalog. So once we get into Enterprise App Cat, I'll switch over and we can actually take a quick look at that one. But I think this is the big one. What questions are we? I always look at things like this and think, okay, what kind of questions do I know I'm going to get in the future? It's like, why aren't iOS or iPadOS up there? And it's like, because they are iOS and iPadOS, that's why they're not there, because Apple doesn't want that kind of functionality there. Whereas obviously, doing things on a full desktop OS, you've got a lot of flexibility. Doing things on Android, you've got a lot of flexibility. So just sort of part of the normal Android versus iOS family of OS type conversations. So for the install, for Mac, there's a download. For Android, just use Google Play. For updates, just use whatever Windows update mechanism you're using. It'll handle it for you. Mac OS, use MAU. Android, Google Play. So pretty straightforward getting it deployed. We'll take a look at Enterprise App Cat pretty shortly, so we can see just some of those. Basically, we can roll two partial demonstrations into one there. Now, the next one is the advanced analytics. So in this case, we get some additional reports that build on top of just the Intune or the existing analytics capabilities. So basically, for people who want more insights, I guess with this one, also that it's part of E3 is nice, because Intune reporting has always been a sore point for people, especially for people who've moved over from Config Manager. Like, they've always looked at it doesn't matter what other solution they're looking at, they'll go, oh, I can build my own reports that do anything I want because I've got an SQL backend. So anything that helps to improve things here, obviously, a step in the right direction. Now, I guess the other thing as well that we can sort of start throwing into some of this stuff is, like, I haven't played around with it too much on the Intune side, like just jumping in, like if you do have E5 and you're getting some Security Copilot inclusions in that, just jumping in and using Security Copilot to go through and start generating some reports. But Security Copilot does some weird stuff with Intune reporting. Mostly asking it questions, even though it's integrated into the Surface Management portal, you get some very interesting results based on the way you word things. So if you want to know what devices are approaching end of warranty or end of support, it will give you a URL to a Microsoft website that tells you when certain models reach end of support. But if you rephrase it slightly, it will tell you the specifics around which of your devices are there. It's like, and we could say that's a prompt engineering question, but it's like, why would I use Security Copilot to ask a dumb question that's so generic?
Great.
Yeah. Okay, but otherwise, for this one, it's in E3, so obviously, a lot more people are going to be able to get access to this.
I had a question on that one. If you remember, Steve, last year, you had done a session where back then, this was in the suite, the advanced analytics. And I remember you had done a session where there was a workaround on the create a log analytics workspace.
Oh, Meetup.
Yeah. So would anything change now that the advanced analytics are enabled even in your base license? Do you think now a different approach or still that is a better one?
It depends on what you're trying to do. If you want a static dashboard that is pre-canned, endpoint analytics and everything associated with it is fantastic. Advanced endpoint analytics. If you're wanting to do actionable, that's where it changes the conversation.
Understood.
So it comes down to your use case and maturity of application. So yeah.
Actionable, I think, is the key probably.
Yeah, and endpoint analytics is fantastic. Advanced endpoint analytics is fantastic, but the APIs are not completely exposed publicly, which means that building automation in that is not completely supported.
Gotcha.
And that's the fine line I've got to dance on that one.
Okay, so Intune Plan 2 probably should have split each of these out to their own conversation, but probably just, I guess for me, the big one here is probably the tunnel for MAM.
Yep.
The others we're getting into device specific requirements as opposed to tunnel for MAM could be more generic. And one of the things that I was going to chat to you about is probably I'll try to set up a demonstration for this. So if you ever need to jump in and demo, have a pre-built lab environment for it.
Awesome.
There's a few things that I need to test, and that's one of the ones that now that it's broadly, again, because it's an E3 feature,
Correct.
it's something that we're going to be asked about a lot more. So it'd be finally time to get some proper hands-on experience. But for the photo and the specialty devices, unless somebody is throwing devices at us for demonstration purposes, no.
Well, and that's Android.
Yeah.
It's not Windows. It's not that.
No.
Yeah. So I'll see if I can dig up the URL that because it's this gets confusing because when you see things like, conference meeting room devices and live smart screen devices, people start thinking Surface hubs or other bits and pieces, but it's not Windows devices. Yep. Okay, what else have we got? So now we're sort of switching over to the E5 only features. So with EPM, just trying to think what's been added to EPM since it was launched. Is it something that you've paid some?
No, but it's all refinements.
Okay, yeah.
So this is where it came from feedback. For example, you couldn't initially sit there and say it was digitally signed by this. Then put some allowances on there.
Yeah.
If it's this path. So my understanding is it was just giving you more control.
Yeah.
That's what's been added.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because I went through the what's new in Intune posts for the last couple of years, or whatever they've still got online at the moment. And it just sort of seemed like refinements rather than anything dramatic being added in, which is not a bad thing. Okay, what else? So the Cloud PKI. So we thought we had some cool stuff that we could use this for, and then your own rained on our parade and said, no, you can't use it for that. So with this one, if we need to get certs out to Intune managed devices that support SCEP, then this is what we've got available to us. So Yeah, and I think probably the conversations around this are probably the same conversations from when it was first introduced, which was if all you need is certs on devices that fall within those parameters, fantastic. But as soon as you say, well, I've got a server, it's a different, yeah, it ends up being a different conversation. Or the devices aren't Intune managed, etc. So it's something where I can understand them sort of keeping the scope narrow because it's like, no, we're the Intune team. We want to provide a certificate solution for Intune, but that doesn't necessarily match with what customers want/need. Now, not to say that there aren't people who, that nobody's using it, but it's very specific use cases. Even like some of the scenarios I was going through are pretty simple scenarios, but it's like, oh shit, no, Windows Server. So yeah, not part of that.
Do you reckon this would get further expanded in the future where, for example, on the server side, the certificate services is called as Active Directory Certificate Services. But that's just for on-prem, right? Would there ever be like a cloud PKI, real Microsoft Cloud PKI?
So I challenge that statement because Active Directory Certificate Services can be published with PKCS and SCEP via Intune and using Enter ID application app proxy. It all just works. We've been doing it for 10 years. So I was doing this before I joined Microsoft with customers. It's literally a day's worth of work and it's up and running and then go. What that gave you is the ability to have your own CA and then you could have a consistent certificate chain all the way across. So what has been added to Cloud PKI where potentially will meet the requirement for customers is you have the ability to make it a subordinate of your existing PKI infrastructure. And so long as they trust the certificate infrastructure, you can then have your CA over here or your certificate for your web server sitting over here that is trusted by your device here and also fully trusted for the VTLS connection for your Wi-Fi connection. So certificates are complicated, but it has been addressed to a point. That's what I would say on that front. If that makes sense. Yep. So it's, yeah, it will get there.
Because I guess the other thing that I was thinking, with your question is what solutions are there that would be like integrating with Key Vault or something like that on the Azure side? But then, that's just not something that I've looked at too. Obviously using Key Vault to store certs, but when it comes to what's actually the cert service, not something that I've really looked at.
Something like an Azure service or something which could do it all, just not one particular certificate type, like web server, anything else. Web.
Yeah, because I guess even there, like, if you sort of think about stuff that we would have been doing, or not would have been doing, or are still doing in a lot of cases with Windows on-prem, Windows Server on-prem, in terms of DHCP and DNS. On the Azure side, they've been stripped out. You don't need to worry about them. Something like certs seems like it would be a natural progression.
That's right.
I think those certs are probably a bit more complicated than DNS and DHCP scopes.
The issue with certificates is most people haven't taken the time to understand how it works, and they are one technology stack that you have to be extremely concise with. If you have a slight deviation, you won't be trusted. And this is where it's taking the time to understand it. and it requires good architecture. So part of why having that cloud PKI as a subordinate of your largest certificate authority hierarchy is good, is because you can then turn around and go, I don't completely trust all of the certificates being issued from here, except for this scenario, this scenario, this scenario. So that's where the support model is a little bit easier, because you can also then turn around and go, okay, that PKI infrastructure was impacted. Let's kill it. And yes, but let's kill that cloud PKI and then start over. And you can go and reissue from the subordinate down. So if the subordinate is ever compromised, it's not taking out your whole infrastructure.
And I think also on the cert side, I think like with Modern Auth, etc., there was such a not a push, not like telling people to move away from certs, but there's definitely a lot of moving away from certs for a lot of purposes that certs aren't really the answer anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if certs were, or even, but I guess even now though, like we can basically put certs into Entra ID now. So things that we didn't, that where you go, well, no, that's not, no, certs would never be coming to that. That's your ADFS stuff.
An interesting one was for recall, we had to bring in a concept of bring your own certs. So IT admins could decrypt the recall library, even though you shouldn't be doing that. And from a security point of view, we're like, this is actually a bad idea, blah, 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 but it's the only way we can get it across the line for certain customers.
Correct.
So
especially government, right?
Government was less of a concern. It's typically going to be your fin services.
Okay.
Where they want to be able to sit there and see grades and see what you're researching and everything. They need it for Sarbanes-Oxley, or assumed it was needed for Sarbanes-Oxley, and blah, blah, blah. Because it's a work item and we need to be able to audit it, because you have the ability to audit it, therefore you need to audit it. Whereas on a Mac, you don't have the ability to audit it, so therefore you need to audit it. Fun, right?
Yeah, that's weird. Why?
Because the demarcation line is at the API for Mac, whereas the demarcation line for Windows is on the device. Because we have auditability into the OS, whereas they don't. That's why security controls and security actions required on Windows devices. Yes, to say I've gone down the rabbit hole for that technology is the start.
Okay, so final one. Now, out of the E5 specific editions, this is probably my favorite, or the one that I think people are probably going to be more likely to use versus the others. Now, so with this, it's because I haven't had Intune Suite in my tenant for a while. It was interesting going back, because there's a few things that I was curious about to see if certain things were still frozen in time. And
the count.
There was some specific TechSmith products that I was choosing to, I wanted to see, have the newer versions been added in? Because I had a theory as to why, like Camtasia and a few other, Camtasia I can kind of understand why that was actually, no, Snagit I could understand that being in, but there was like, even if we, actually let's just jump over and have a look. So this one, we might as well, this is an easy one to demonstrate, so we might as well. So let me just jump to the right portal, share that page. Sorry, just let me share browser. Okay, so just for anyone who hasn't seen this yet, so if you do have E5 licenses in your tenant, this should be lighting up now. But if we go to add in a new Windows app, we can now choose Enterprise App Catalog app down here. And if we just select that one, expand that out. Zoom in a bit so you can actually read a few things. But in here, it's, yeah, so the list definitely is a lot longer than the last time I was looking in here. So that's a good sign. Obviously, scrolling through it's not the best way to do it. But seeing that we're pretty close to Microsoft anyway, let's just go look for Microsoft Intune. Of course, things, Microsoft Remote Help is there. Okay, so let's just use this one as an example.
Skype for desktop. Love it.
No, that's, but, and then there's Skype for Texas.
No, that one there's even crazier because that's for Skype transmit.
So there's, yeah, a few old, look, I can,
So
I don't have an issue with there being older things floating around, because just because something's old doesn't mean it goes away.
I understand that.
Okay.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Okay, so here on the remote help side, so tying this back into what we were talking about earlier, you know, in this case, if we take a look here with this one, where it will go through and we could either have it automate, yeah, we could have automatic updates on this, or do we want updates with supersedence in there? So based on what it is that we choose, it will go through and configure these, the options for us. But what's quite nice in here is where you can actually see the install command and the uninstall command. So if you're looking at if you sort of figure out that something that you're working with is using a similar installer to something else and you're trying to troubleshoot it, sometimes seeing the different switches, etc., can be useful. It might be something where you may not have realized that there was, even if in that top one, enable auto updates equals 0. Yeah, sometimes, you know, we don't always see those lines when we're looking at Microsoft Learn, and then you see a sample and go, yeah, that would be the reason it hasn't been working for me. So the app catalog is like, it looks as though it has grown substantially since the last time I looked at it. So yeah, so good to see that is in here. Now I need to sort of go through and look at what's in here. What are some of the things that I want to start pushing out from that? But I think I've already added in remote help to start pushing that out to devices.
Templates ADMX for Windows
10.
Is that what it is?
Oh, it actually has got a lot more. Yes, Windows 10.
Oh, they're different architectures, different versions.
That is rolling.
Because you zoomed in.
Yeah. Okay, and it is still Windows 10. Yeah, there's no. Let's go back. Yeah, so. Okay, yeah, it's just that one. Now the one, so what was the one? I think it was Camtasia was the one. Yeah, so you can sort of see that there's some things where, even though I know there are like much later versions of it, they're frozen in time. And I've got a theory about Camtasia or any of the TechSmith products. When did people associated with certain Microsoft programs lose access?
Yeah, so
Oh, no, or Snagit 2024 is still in there. So I think it was just before, what's that? What's Clipchamp? Yeah, it was when Clipchamp. Those Clipchamp and Snagit,
Clipchamp, Camtasia.
Yeah. Yeah. So that one, okay, so Snagit in this, okay, so last time I only searched on Camtasia, And I was like, oh God, it's okay. So that's a pretty old version. I think even the version I've got's more up to date than that. But yeah, okay, Snagit's still somewhat up to date. And
Still old.
yeah, and so
2026 is
yeah, so and the way that this works, and let's just go back to those slides quickly, is that sorry,
will this ever become prime time? Is the question. Will this catalog be prime time? Ever? Like, can we tell customers that, hang on, this feature, we're gonna kill this. Like, you don't have to buy A, B, and C now.
No, I don't think anyone's commenting on that. Okay, so so if you're not familiar with the enterprise app management pieces, it will go through, pre-populate everything for you, and effectively it will handle what we would have had to do manually, downloading the installer, creating the Intune.win file, pushing it up to our Intune cloud storage behind the scenes. It does, basically, it's automating a lot of that stuff for us. So it's it's a nice wrapper around that stuff, but I guess it's always I think tying back into what Aresh was saying, which is if you're going into it and more than one or two of the things you need are missing from it, you still need to invest in the skills to get that stuff right anyway. But hopefully there's something in here that's close enough that can impart some of those skills on you, or maybe your GPT solution can give you some assistance with that. And I guess that's the other thing as well these days, is that it's a hell of a lot easier to get answers on that stuff. Like even some of the things recently where, remember Stack Overflow. Yep. Take a look at some of the usage stats of that over the last few years, and it's
searches.
Yeah.
So one of the things you can do, which is pretty cool, is nowadays you can go and throw your AI, like GitHub Copilot, at the installers and go and figure out all the switches. It can go and pull apart all your MSIs now. So you can go and get all of your properties for your MSIs.
Oh, wow. I never knew that.
Of course you can.
Wow.
Because the MSI is a defined framework. So all you have to do is load the MSI DLLs, and it knows how to pull apart everything. Like even before I came out here tonight, I was looking at turning on VPN for my Ubiquity so I can VPN home. I didn't go and turn it on in the UX. I went, here's the SSH, go connect and tell me, is it possible? Am I going to have any problems? And which route should I go? And then it will go and set it all up for me.
Amazing.
So
keep pointing things to the AI. Yeah.
It's not going to give you all of the answers, but this is where it can make your life easier, and it can be a tool that you can use for that scenario. So the other thing you can do as well is it's all on JSON. So EAM, you can just go and get what the standards are and go, right, go and try all those different switches against all of my installers and see if they work.
Yep. Yeah, and probably the other thing as well to throw into this is it's not automatic. You still need to make decisions with this around what's appropriate. So even in here, even things like, are you installing it as on the, targeting the device, are you targeting the user, et cetera, et cetera? How is it being installed? So there's, yeah, so this does a lot of the heavy lifting for you. And so for me, sometimes just sort of having something like this for troubleshooting purposes, but that's like first time that I had access to it, that's what I was using it for, was to take a look at what some of the switch options were that I'd never played around with before. But now for that stuff, yeah, I'd just be jumping in and asking LLM of choice of the month.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And
What options are there?
like this is where going and using PowerShell remoting on a Hyper-V host into any of your VMs, you can then even go and create a full contained blast room for each of your binaries. So you can just sit there and go, this is a device, it has no network adapter. I've uploaded the files, I'm running my version of Windows, I've PS remoted in and go and pull it all apart for me. And it will. So it's to that point where you can start doing some really powerful things in isolation to be able to see is what's going to happen, how it's going to work. And then you can start turning around and capturing boot processes and going, all right, I've gone and installed deployed application X. This is actually what's happening on that device during installation. This is what's happening at first run, and track everything that's going on there so that you can go and build out a whole heap of additional stuff. AI is going to help you with these things.
Absolutely. Right.
And if you're not using it, go spend time.
Absolutely.
Yep. Okay.
Sorry, I know I got on my little rant.
It's okay. Okay, so that basically brings us into the bit where we stop recording so that any questions, any conversations that we want to have outside of recording, we can have those here. So let me just stop that recording. And seeing that Prashwal already